Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by both of our co-hosts today, Tyler Britton and Jacob Boyers. Guys, good news is Cats start 1-0, ranked number 1 in the SEC. So let's go ahead and let's take a moment to gather that in. We're ahead of Texas and we're ahead of Alabama in the standings. I don't know how many times you can say that about Kentucky football in the past, but guess what? We're going to soak it in while we got it. Kentucky defeats Toledo 24-16. Ugly game, but guess what? We got the win. We're 1-0. Guys, just give me some of your big takeaways before we start to dive into the game more in depth.
Hang on, real quick, Cam. What was that Toledo score? What did they have?
How many goals coming?
How many?
I don't know if it's the way I predicted them to get there, but I think when someone laughed at me last week for saying 16 is a number.
Hey, boys, I just want to let you know, while we were at the game, there was nothing that Cam was dreading more than watching Toledo drive down the field, potentially, or Kentucky going down the field, potentially getting another field goal to get the perfect score for you. Oh, he was panicking. He did not want to come on the pod and deal with that.
Yeah, I knew. Once I saw that safety come, I was like, all right, this is the way that it's going to come in. And I was like, man, he really should have taken the odds on that and predicted the perfect score there. And that would have been a hell of a start for you, Jacob, on the predictions.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been good. Wish we got a little better offense on Saturday, but we can kind of dive into it. But yeah, just had to take a quick victory lap, just because I was laughed at by someone on this podcast last week for my score of Toledo having 16 points.
Yeah, I can't believe Tyler laughed at you right in your face. All right, guys, let's dive right into it. Let's go ahead and start with the positives. The defense only allows 16 points. I mean, technically only 14. A lot of it was on that 90-yard drive at the end of the game. Started playing that Brad White specialty of, giving him a lot of looks and just a lot of open field there at the end. Really playing like that 2-minute defense almost that he does towards the end of the game. Outside of that, I think the defense looked really well, really good. The defensive line, I thought, was really able to get after the quarterback, cause pressures in ways that I don't think we've had in quite some time. Linebackers were able to stop the run very well. Alex Afari had a terrific game. And then the corners, there were some low lights in there. J.Q. Hardaway bit on a double move, but also had an interception in this game. And really, I don't think you can ask much more from this defense, even though I will say, I don't think Toledo is going to even win the MAC. After watching Gleason that entire game, I don't think there's a chance that Toledo wins the MAC. And I honestly think this game more proves that Toledo is highly overrated rather than necessarily what it says about Kentucky. And that's why we're going to get to it. That's all reason to why I'm scared for what's to come this week.
Yeah, I'll start with you on the positives. I do agree. I think my biggest takeaway was Toledo is not, I don't think, going to be one of the top 3 teams in the MAC. I would be surprised if they win it, but who knows? Maybe they do. I mean, seems like they got a pretty solid defense, so maybe they can ride that and win some games.
I hope so.
But I agree. The quarterback play is not what I think, even for MAC competition, going to be sustainable. But yeah, to your point, Cam, I think the obvious glowing positive was the defense. For really 3.5 quarters played phenomenal. What was so impressive to me in the first half was just how quick they were out there and, making stops. I mean, Kentucky couldn't get any type of drive going. They held the ball for a little bit on their first possession, but then after that, it was a quick interception for Kentucky. And then, even when they stop them on 4th down, that was a very long drive by Toledo. They stop them on 4th down, and then you get a safety, and the defense is right back out there 2 plays later. I just think, for how quick they were back on the field, and then, another quick fumble, and they were able just to still go out there and shut them down. I was, thoroughly impressed for what we saw again for 3.5 quarters from this defense. Alex Afari, I think, was obviously the biggest highlight. I thought, him making that move to linebacker, you can really see, I think, kind of just how special of a season we might see out of him.
Yeah, Alex Afari, 13 total tackles in this game. We talked about that. The transition from safety to linebacker, he needed to put on some LBs, put some on. Obviously, against SEC teams is where that mass is going to show up a little bit more, so let's wait a little bit before we crown, Alex Farr to be the captain of this defense or anything like that. But it was really good to see him outside of that one play where Gleason kind of pump faked him and then ran right past him in the end zone. Other than that, Alex Farr had a tremendous game, and I think the linebackers in total played tremendous and were really able to stuff the run without having to put too many guys in the box, which is kind of something that Jake and I talked about last week, just alluding to that and being able to stop the run without forcing safeties to come down. It was good to see that and have the defensive line, show up in that way.
Yeah, I'm in the same agreement with both of you guys here. I thought the defense played phenomenal. It was, Cam, I remember being at the game with you, and we even talked about, I think, right around halftime. I mean, we felt like we were on the field or that Toledo had the ball longer, but to credit of our defense, we actually owned the time of possession going into halftime. I forget what the final time possession difference was, but they kept Toledo off the field. They kept our offense on the field, gave us the most chances, and can't ask for anything more than that. We held them to just 59 yards rushing on the day. I'll give the defense some break on the passing. Just that Toledo had to play the pass game the entire second half basically to try to do something. But I thought they played great overall. So I'm excited to see what they can do. But I'm also excited that I was also happy to see our offensive line. It felt like a huge improvement from last year. I'm not saying they're top in the SEC by any means, but I felt like they were able to run the ball the way we need to get the win. So hopefully we can keep the momentum there, and hopefully we can use that to our advantage in the passing game a little bit going into Ole Miss.
Yeah, and we'll dive a little bit more into that offense here going forward. Just kind of wanted to talk about the defense a little bit more in total. I mean, what about Steven Sackham Souls? 2 sacks. One of them was a force or a strip sack. I mean, this game looks a lot different if we jump on one of those as well. We forced there was 3 turnovers in total, 1 interception, 2 on downs. I mean, defense felt like they were on the field forever. I know, Tyler, you mentioned it. We actually led time of possession going into halftime, and it did not felt like anything but that. And really, I mean, defense was as good as you can ask for. And the part that I'm so excited about, I know it's against MAC competition and MAC offensive linemen, but just the pressure we were able to get and the way we were able to fit run gaps with the defensive line and linebackers, I think that's something that, especially when you play a team like Ole Miss, like we will this week, is something you're really going to need is to be able to stop the run up front, because if they're the scheme that they run with how wide those gap schemes are, I think that's probably the biggest bright spot to take away outside of just the defense in total not allowing too many points.
Definitely, and I understand it's just a MAC team, and we'll see kind of how these linebackers perform in SEC play. But last week, Cam, and you talked about, we felt pretty good about this defense, depending on what you got from the linebackers. And I know, again, it's just Toledo and a MAC school, but I think they came away with as good of a day as you could have asked for, and hopefully what you can kind of see them build on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss from the defense. I mean, I'll take that any week we can get.
Felt like they were getting, and it felt like they were getting there a lot of pressure even when they weren't getting sacks, or it felt like they had Toledo's quarterback sped up at a lot.
Yeah, and they really did. I mean, Gleason, like I mentioned this to Tyler very early in the first quarter. If you got that guy off of his first read, there was just nothing that was going to happen, and they were able to consistently do that throughout the game until that final drive. Once you got to the final drive, you could see he was able to hit his first read, and that's where they found a lot of success. And that is going to be something where I'm going to draw a little bit of like a caution tape, is when Toledo did go up tempo was when this defense really did start to struggle. And I think we all know, like, Ole Miss is all tempo. Their entire game plan is get as many plays off as they can. And it's got a little bit of a cause for concern. Obviously, I do think we let our foot off the gas at the end of the game. But, I mean, you can't do that this week, especially with Lane Kiffin coming to town trying to right his wrongs from last year.
No. Yeah, I think they took their foot off the gas. I'm sure it wasn't anything they probably focused on a whole lot in practice either, knowing that, kind of Toledo's style and tempo there. But, yeah, I mean, Lane Kiffin is probably licking his chops seeing, how Toledo performed on those final couple drives. And, he's going to go quick, and he's going to keep Kentucky off rhythm. So it's going to be a test for Brad White. I feel like the defense will probably do their quote unquote their part and not allow Ole Miss to go off for 40 or anything crazy like that. But once we kind of dive into this offense, we can talk about all the concerns I have for next week's game.
Yeah, Tyler, do you have anything to wrap up on the defense? Any positives you want to bring out, or anything that you're concerned about going into the Ole Miss game that you saw from this defense against Toledo?
We'll dive more into it when we're breaking down for next week. I overall with the Toledo game, as excited as I am for the win, my biggest concern is that we didn't necessarily win the game. I think Toledo more so just lost the game. I mean, you're looking at the penalties. They had 11 penalties for 93 yards. We did have good discipline in that regard. So good on us. We only had 3 penalties for 30, but they couldn't run the ball to save their life. Credit to our defense, but their quarterback could not save them. So we knew that the only hope that Toledo had was running the ball with Chip Trainum, and no, we were not going to let that happen. So, but I think Toledo. I think given a different quarterback situation in Toledo, I think they would have the outcome may have been a little bit different.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, just talking about Trip Trainum before we go to our offense, he had 83 all-purpose yards, only 18 shy of his entire year at UK last year. So, nice job, Chip. Nice to see you out on Kroger Field finally putting up some stats. Wish it would have been for us, but nonetheless, thanks for nothing, Chip.
Felt good denying him on the 1 yard line, though, huh?
It did. It's just like it's like, man, this is exactly what we were used to. Speaking of things we were used to, first offensive play penalty. And boy, did you hear the crowd right after it. Just like, oh, here we go again. This is going to be the start. This is how this season's going to go. And, I mean, really everything that you saw last year outside of the offensive line struggles happened with this offense this year. I haven't had the chance to be able to watch the All-22 tape yet, watch the replay of the game outside of us being there live. This offense left a lot to be desired. I mean, even when you talk about the running game, which we thought in total was really well, we ended up running for 5.1 yards per carry. But, I mean, that was also including a 79-yard touchdown run from Dante Dowdell. I mean, guys, help me find the positivity, because even in the run game, I'm not finding a lot of positives. So somebody give me a little bit of positivity before we start diving into negativity.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the running backs looked okay. I'm not going to say they looked great or anything. I think our O-line was better in pass protection than it was a year ago, but in that first half, they weren't really getting a lot of push to give, McGowan or Dowdell a chance to not get hit 1 yard into the play. So, by no means do I think like the running backs were spectacular or anything, but they were definitely not my biggest cause for concern. I think just when you just look at the passing game numbers as a whole, I don't know how you can't be anything but, pessimistic and, flat out concerned for the rest of the year. I mean, under 90 passing yards, Cam, that's a little off from your 250 that you predicted there.
Hey, I told you it was a bold prediction for a reason.
Yeah, very bold. We'll see if he can maybe combine for 250 for the next 3 games. But to your point, a lot of kind of the frustrating offense that we saw a year ago. You had 10 points at the end of the third quarter, and your 1 touchdown drive you started at, inside your opponent's 40-yard line. Like, there was no sustainability when you were either turning the football over, going 3 and out, you would get to the 40 and, throw 3 straight incompletions and not move the ball. There was a ton of frustrating stuff, including the fact that, I don't understand this team's offensive identity. I don't understand what we try to do at times.
I don't think they do.
I don't understand calling a zone read, 5 yards deep into the end zone when you have the ball on the 3-yard line. I mean, he was 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage in the end zone. Like, I understand Calzada made the wrong read, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to criticize Calzada a lot in this podcast, but I didn't understand that play call. Your receivers, I don't know if they weren't getting open or if we were looking their way too late. Maybe they were open earlier in their routes. I don't know, but All I know is that when you just look at the numbers on the surface, this passing game was abysmal, and the eye test tells you that it was abysmal, and you're going to have to throw the ball and move the ball to win games in the SEC, especially the one next week. And there wasn't one positive, even like flash that I saw. I mean, besides the first deep ball to J.J. Hester where he was out of bounds, I mean, there wasn't anything that looked even remotely close to some type of positive takeaway from the passing game.
I don't say almost, at least in my eyes, from watching the game, it looked like up until he threw that interception, he was at least trying to throw the football under windows, and it looked like he was somewhat successful for those first 2 drives or so. But then, like you said, I mean, right after that, it just felt like it kind of fell apart under Calzada, and that is worrisome. I do want to look at our OC though, Bush Hampton here. I really just didn't see good play design as a whole. Kind of going off of what you were saying, Boyers, is the routes. Maybe I'm not saying we have the best talent in the SEC or in the nation or anything like that, but we were playing Toledo here. Like, our receivers should have been getting more open faster. It just didn't seem like we were getting separation at all during the game. It looked like we were playing against Ole Miss or Georgia already, and I was like, some of that's on the players. Some of it's on the scheme too. How are we not scheming our guys open a little bit more? In my eyes, it's a little frustrating. I don't know, but that's definitely worrisome as we go into some of these bigger games against Ole Miss and later our midseason stretch too against some of those bigger competition teams.
Yeah, I'll agree and disagree.
Real quick, Cam,
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say real quick, like, I know, like, quote unquote, there's a lot of unknown for us with this receiver room, but like, these are guys that are all talented and played and made plays at other SEC schools in a lot of them, or a guy like Jamari Macklin who made plays at times here last year. So, I do agree. Like, I'm not buying the excuse of these receivers just aren't talented enough to go get open. Like, it's either a scheme issue or we're missing them at some point throughout the route.
Also, I really hope that Zach Calzada sat there and watched the film like he said he did in his post-game press conference, because that's all he could say after the game.
Yeah, I will say he did get asked maybe 6 questions, and he did bring up, I got to watch the film at least 18 times in those 6 questions. So hopefully, he is watching the film. But a lot to unpack there from what you guys said. Tyler, I'll start with you because you just said it right there. I agree. In total, Bush Hampton has a lot to prove and has left a lot to be desired. But also, I mean, a lot of these guys, there's a reason they are on their second schools. There's a reason they are fifth-year seniors. I don't know if this receiving room is talented enough to get open in the SEC. I don't know how many of those guys you can scheme open on plays like that when you don't have the quarterback to be able to throw guys open and anticipate routes like that. I don't know what this receiving room is. Jacob, I know we talked about it a little bit last week on how when Bush gets asked, hey, who's the number one? Has anybody stepped up? And he's like, no one stepped up. We have 6 guys I feel comfortable playing. I don't know about you guys, but when I say I have 6 guys I feel comfortable with, that means I don't have a single person that I truly trust to lean on. And I think that's evident, shown by 5 catches for the tight ends. Jacob, how long has it happened? How long has it been since Kentucky had 5 catches from the tight ends and 70 yards receiving from the tight ends? Never happened. So, that shows you there just the lack of trust in this receiving room. Kendrick Law was supposed to be the guy to get the targets for this team. He was targeted, once in the end zone where he almost came down with that touchdown. Outside of that, he was nowhere to be found. Jamari Macklin got targeted on the first drive, had an 11-yard catch. I don't think he got a target the rest of the game. Seemed like they were trying to force the ball to Hardley Gilmore. He was open some of those plays. Zach missed on a couple of them, and a lot of them, corner was on him like white on rice. And I love Hardley Gilmore. I think he's got the potential to be the best receiver in that room. But, guys, I'm fully worried about this receiving room. I told Jacob that last week. This really just reaffirmed all my suspicions of you got to have at least 1 to 2 guys that you feel comfortable with getting the ball. If not, you end up looking with a receiving line of Josh Caddis getting 3 catches and then your receivers getting – we had 3 receivers catch balls, and one of them was Hardley Gilmore with a jet sweep touch pass. That's just not – it's not going to win you games in the SEC. At that point, I don't know to blame Bush. Yeah, you can make it better, but it's also his first game with these guys as well. I know the first thing in Kentucky football fans' mind right now is it's either blame Bush or it's blame Calzada. I think we have to find different ways in which to look at a football game collectively without it just being one or two people's faults. Because there's 11 guys on the field and 11 guys have to help for each play to go like it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, you won't hear me defend pretty much anybody on this offense. Maybe outside of Josh Caddis, I thought he gave you kind of what you expect out of him, if not, even a little more. But I mean, even when they, hit Willie Rodriguez, who we all expect to have a huge sophomore year for a big play, he fumbles the football. So I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around, and a lot of frustrations. One thing that, like, there are two guys, two of your better receivers, like, they were here a year ago. Like, I know Hardly Gilmore left and then, came back. Jamori Macklin was, obviously here, and you made it a priority to get him back. I don't understand, and I know people are going to talk about Toledo's got some guys in the secondary that could maybe go play in the NFL. Like, if you don't think the rest of this league's going to have guys that are playing in the NFL, on defense, you're in for a rude awakening. I mean, maybe besides Eastern Michigan and Tennessee Tech is the only game on the schedule where, you can just flat out go out and play against college players and nobody that's going to be playing on Sundays. So I hear what you're saying, Cam, but like the blame, I think it's obviously everybody, but again, I haven't watched it enough. I don't know. Again, maybe some of these guys are getting open early in their routes and Calzada's holding the ball too long, or he's making the wrong read, or maybe, to Tyler's point, we're just not scheming them open enough. I mean, there's coaches in this league and in college football all around that probably have less talented wide receiver rooms that can find ways to get them open. But yeah, I also don't think it helps to not really know what we're doing out there. I mean, you run the ball all the way to the 40, 35-yard line, and then you decide to dial up 3 deep passes right when you're on the edge of field goal range. Like, a lot of the stuff just – it doesn't make sense to me. Again, I mean, I know it's one play, but like to call that zone read in the end zone 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage is one of the most baffling decisions I've ever seen. Like, how do you not just try to get 3 to 4 yards and out of the shadow of your end zone, then run the zone read? Like, it's just, it was play call all day was mind boggling. I was the guy that said bring Bush back. I'm not saying, you fire him now or anything ridiculous, but I think it's just he's been here for a year and a game now. I have no idea what his offensive identity is. I have no idea what this team does going forward. And, we're 13 games into the Bush-Hamden experience. And who knows? Maybe it's just a completely Mark Stoops thing that, we've vented about all offseason. But I don't see where this goes or how you get it, how this even looks like a formidable passing offense.
I think the truth on both sides, to your point, Cam. I mean, obviously, players have to play. It doesn't matter what the play call is. If you're a receiver and, you're supposed to run a fade route, you better run the best damn fade route you have, your entire life. You're playing in SEC football here. I know it's Toledo, but you got to run those routes. You got to do them well. Take your opportunity for what it is. Part of it might be Mark Stoops in terms of the schematics of it. He's a defensive guy, and his way of controlling the game is a run first offense, and then play good defense. I can understand that, but ultimately he hires an offensive coordinator because he's a defensive guy, and so he puts the onus on the offense to be under Bush-Hamden and him to call the plays and call them well. And I thought it was really baffling just to watch that zone read. In that kind of situation, you either hand the ball off or you swing outside, the quick throw, you get out of your hands, especially with our history, the way it's been with the offensive line play. Granted, again, I think that it was light and day different of how they played on Saturday with the passing O-line. But to this point, we had not had a proven offensive line. I don't think you sit back there and you throw the ball, 30, 40 yards down the field. You just rip that ball out. I think that you need to start getting creative with the pass game a little bit when you're 1st and 10, second and 5, whatever. Get some picks and rubs in there. That will help a lot of people get open. I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect, but that beats a man-to-man if you get some picks and rubs in there. There has to be a way that you can get systematically better on offense. Some of it's the players. Players got to play. Coaching scheme has to be a little bit better. the guy who's calling the shots, the guy who has all offseason made a full-time living doing this in the SEC, has to figure out a way to look better on offense against Toledo. I mean, Ole Miss did it against Georgia State. They did exactly what they're supposed to. They looked like a formidable offense, and we're over here playing Toledo, and we're just looking like a shell of ourselves. I'm not downing Toledo. I'm not saying that they're not a somewhat decent team. I don't know. Well, time will tell. But at the end of the day, it's Toledo. It's the MAC. We should have put up a lot bigger of a number than 24 points.
Yeah, I mean, just back to the full-time thing. Everybody involved is full-time at this point. Players are getting paid. They're doing it full-time as well. So we have to stop with those things. All the coaches get paid. This is their full-time job. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Zach Calzada's getting paid. And let's also put it this way. If he just hands that ball off to Dante Dowdell, we were at the 3. He's about 2-3 yards deep in that end zone. Nobody's talking about that play call at all.
I agree. That would be even better.
Me personally, I have to have faith in a 7th-year quarterback to be able to hand the football off. And if you watch that play, there is no world in which that doesn't get handed off. There's no way. That's fully on Zach. I get that giving him the option to pull it. Let's also say this. I don't know if that was a zone option. That could have been all Zach. At any point, any running play, a quarterback can pull it and run it themselves. Any play. So we don't know that. And don't get me wrong. I feel like right now I sound like a Bush Hamden advocate, which I am not. I just want to show that there's blame to be shared. Like that ball should have been handed off. I'm not putting that on Bush. So zone. Guess what? If I call a zone read and nobody goes with you at all, then take it. Go for it. But, I mean, there's an outside linebacker staring you down at the face. Let me give it to my 240-pound running back who's just a bowling ball, who's got a full head of steam versus me trying to make a cut and make a guy miss. You have a 7th-year quarterback who's not able to make that decision. That's fully on Zach Calzada. He's played a lot of football. I mean, at some point, if he's not able to make plays like that, then all the fans that you heard in the stadium who were chiming for Cutter the entire game, then we have to have that conversation a lot sooner than we wanted to.
No, I agree completely. You're right. Like if Zach just makes the right read, then this is probably a non-story. My only point is, like, why even have it be a possibility? Like that's.
We also don't know if it was either.
Yeah, but that's one of the times too. Like even if you're handing the ball to Dowdell, like let's maybe not be 4 yards in the back of the end zone when we're at the 3-yard line. Like we're 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Like, there's no reason to not just go get 3 to 4 yards, get you out to the 7, and give you all kinds of room to do whatever you want. That's my only point. Again, your defense just makes, not even like, goal line stand. Just get a little bit of separation and figure it out from there. So, but that was my only complaint. But you're absolutely right. Like, Zach's the one that missed the read. Don't get me wrong. I was screaming and cussing about him on that play. Like, I totally agree. I just think it never should have been in that situation. But again, if he just doesn't hold the football, we're not even talking about this, and it's a non-issue. So
yeah, and I also like to say at that point, we really weren't running the ball all that productively at that game. I think we were averaging like 3.6 yards per carry at that point in the game. So I mean,
what do you think? Like, try to get the running back the ball as close to the line of scrimmage as possible.
I mean, we also ran, 90% of our plays out of shotgun. So it looks like Jagger might not be comfortable going under center. So, I mean, at that point, it's either we have to figure out if Jagger's comfortable with that. We got to remember, this is also his first game back at center in 2+ years. There's just a lot of things that I don't think people are thinking about when they're thinking about this. I don't know if Jagger's comfortable going under center there, if we're comfortable with that. I don't know if Dante is better running from under center as well. I mean, Dante might be a better back, think about it. DeMarco Murray was a guy who, if he was running from out of shotgun, he was awful. But you go under center, DeMarco Murray was one of the best backs in the league. There are guys that are just like that. So, I mean, I don't think the offensive play call changes that much from being 5 yards from behind the center in shotgun versus under center, especially when you have a brand new center and quarterback working together. I think there's a lot more to be said there's a lot of things that went into that one play, and I know all blame seems to be going to Bush Hamden with a little bit of Zach Calzada. So,
yeah, I mean, believe me, I spent all off season telling you I wasn't the biggest Zach Calzada fan and believer. So I'm not going to sit here and defend him. He was horrible on Saturday, and made a lot of poor decisions. Not just the the safety decision. I mean, there was a lot of times I thought he was going to the wrong guy. There were times he even, getting back to the line of scrimmage on a keeper where it felt like he shouldn't have kept it and should have gave it up, or times where it felt like he was holding the ball too long and then tried to run, too late. Like there were just, I felt like a lot of Zach Calzada mistakes there. I mean, besides the pass to Hester down the sideline, like every deep ball I think was 20 yards over the receiver's head.
Oh, yeah.
And like there was plenty to be upset. And real quick before you go again, Tyler, I'm going to say one thing that drove me crazy about Mark Stoops. Just a week ago, he's talking about how his kicker can hit from 60 and 61 yards out. Like you're playing a team that can't score. If everything we say about Mark Stoops is true, and I think we all believe this, he's a defensive first coach. He wants to play field position. He wants to put points on the board, when he can, and he wants to trust his defense. I'm not a guy that wants to play for field goals at all, but when you're playing this type of game, I don't understand, like, not just playing for a few field goals here and there. Again, you cross the 40. Why not just say, let's go get 5 more yards, and, even if they stop us on 3rd and 5, we're within 55 yards for this kicker that we think can hit from 61. Like, there was a lot of just baffling decisions. Like, of all the times to not throw deep shots, it's right then and there. If on 2 of those drives right then and there they get an extra 5 yards, go out and kick a field goal, and knock on wood the kicker makes it, those 6 points, that's huge in this type of game. Toledo wasn't scoring. I didn't understand it even from kind of Stoops' aspect of being kind of quote unquote the conservative play caller and coach. It didn't add up to me.
Yeah, I will say our kicker's 1 for 1. I don't know, maybe we get the same kind of luck we had last year. I'm going to knock on wood, but that'd be great to kind of duplicate what we had last year.
Speaking of the kickers in the kicking game, something that goes unnoticed after that safety. I don't know if you saw Aiden LaRosse's kickoff. I mean,
Great
from
kick.
the 20 and gets it to what was it, like 2, the 3?
Yep.
I mean, just an insane kick. The leg on that kid is insane. And then to come back out, I think his next kickoff, he tells EA to shove it with the 0 toughness rating.
Yeah.
He makes a tackle on the sideline. Beautiful form tackle. Shove it, EA. So, I mean, there was that. But, guys, I did want to mention this offensive line in pass protection. Jacob, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think they were outstanding in pass protection. I'm interested to see what they do against Ole Miss. And that's why I think a lot of this is fully at the feet of Zach Calzada and the receivers to get open, because there really wasn't that many pressures involved. I'm scared to see what it is, because this week it didn't look like it was an offensive line problem. So, I mean, would you rather it be just a Zach Calzada problem? Probably, because then you can just put Cutter in at some point. But if it's a receiver's problem, I mean, where do we go? You're already playing 6, 7 guys. I mean, we don't really have an option. So if I'm able to get access to the All-22 tape, I really hope it's just a Zach is not seeing guys open, or it is something as simple as, hey, let's just try and change the scheme. Because it really felt like we were either doing short dump-off passes or we were going deep down the field. It felt like the middle there was not targeted anywhere from like 7 to 15 yards. There was no targets except for the Willie Rodriguez where, we pick up 30 yards and then he fumbles.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Cam. And, again, I haven't watched like the All-22 either, and, I'm not going to pretend to be some big brain football guy, but it did feel like just from what we saw, your receivers were either setting up to almost run like a screen pass or, a 1 or 2 yard dig, or all 4 of them were running as far as they could straight down the field. Like it felt like almost like, the plays you draw up in the backyard when you just tell everybody just run and I'm going to throw it. Like that was the extent of the passing game, I felt like. But yeah, I mean, knock on wood, I'm with you. I hope it's just a Calzada issue and you have, 2 potential fixes. Either A, he plays a hell of a lot better, or B, you make a QB change. But, to your point, if all 8 of these receivers just aren't as good as we thought, then you're in trouble. I still lean towards I don't see that being the case. Like there's no way all 8 of these guys are just not good. I mean, again, Jamari Macklin, I know it's not like he lit the world on fire last year, but the last 4 or 5 games he showed you a lot. So there's got to be some type of middle ground of either it's poor scheme or poor quarterback play, and probably the receivers didn't, play their best game collectively. But I'm hoping that, there's still enough talent in this room to create some type of separation if the play call is designed for them to create it.
Yeah, and I'm going to wait a little bit more before I hit the full panic button on this receiving core. But I mean, you think about it. A lot of these guys weren't necessarily that desirable coming out of the portal. AJ Hester was not a high value transfer portal guy. Troy Stellato was not a high value transfer portal guy. Kendrick Law was. A lot of that is just because of the fact that he's ridiculously fast and is coming from Alabama. And then you're looking at guys like Fred Ferry or Hardly Gilmore, who obviously we love the talent, but between the ears, is he gonna put it all there? And even Jamori Macklin. I mean, what would you say he was the third choice probably to bring back last year? I know they offered a big bag to Dane Key.
I feel like they wanted
him. There's people who wanted Varian gone, people who wanted him to stay. So I know there's a little bit of both there, and he was a big headache from everything we've heard. I mean, really, they only gave that bag to Jamori Macklin just because Dane said no. Yeah. So we have to put that in a context as well. That's why I'm not going to fully put the panic button on. Hopefully, next week they come out and show completely different and getting a lot of separation, but definitely got the ears out looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what that Nebraska offense looks like, but I think Dane was probably sitting there Saturday after already being done with his game like, thank God I'm not in this cluster again. It's just like you said, you're not ready to hit the full panic on, the receivers, and I agree with you. But this passing offense in general,
full panic,
I'm smashing the button. I mean, it's bad. I talked myself into 6 wins before the season. I don't know if you guys are like this, but like I'm back to teetering on this team's going to win 4 games. Like it's just I don't see where this offense generates enough points unless you can maybe find a way to steal a win or two because your defense gets a pick inside the 10 or has a defensive score and you find a way to go steal an upset or something. But as far as just playing good defense and forcing the team to punt and then letting your offense drive 70 yards down the field to go score touchdowns, I don't see it.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And obviously, big test this week with Ole Miss. In the preseason, I said this is when we were going to win. And
yep. You still saying it?
I want to. I want to be positive. So that's why, we're going to talk about how Ole Miss played against Georgia State. Obviously, I mean, Georgia State, they play in a baseball stadium. So let's start off with saying that. And 63 points. I mean, that's a Lane Kiffin special. This is what he does in these early season matchups. Yep. But I will say, Austin Simmons did throw for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also tossed himself 2 interceptions in that game as well. And with this secondary playing like they are, and obviously our linebackers being able to cover from, hash to hash, sideline to sideline, I'm hoping we can get a couple of those, and, that sparks what can be, those short field drives where we can either get 3 points or, capitalize with a long run from Seth McGowan or Dante Dowdell. Because I do think if Seth McGowan can keep his feet underneath him, because he slipped on the turf monster at least 6 times during that game against Toledo, if he can keep his footing underneath of him, I think we've really got something with him. And you obviously saw what Dante Dowdell can do. I think there still is a way Kentucky can win this game. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and talk and give your predictions first, because I'm going to try and talk myself up into the positivity and staying with my preseason prediction, even though the opening line is Ole Miss favored 10.5.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, like, in the aspect of, like, there is a path to win this game. Now, I'm not going to – I predict Kentucky was going to lose in our preseason predictions. I'm, going to stay the course there, not to give a spoiler to my, score or anything. But I just think, like, everything I almost feel like's kind of got to go perfect for you to find a way to win this game. And, as a 10.5 point favorite or underdog, that's, not like some crazy take. But they're going to have to find a way for the defense to generate points, whether it's a a pick six or a scoop and score, or just, another interception inside the 20 where you give your offense, an extremely short field. But even with that, even if, Simmons goes out and throws a pick six or even 2 interceptions inside the 50, like, can this offense find a way to generate 2 or 3 other drives throughout the game of 70 plus yards? And it's sad to say against, a Lane Kiffin defense of all, like, I don't see them being able to generate multiple drives of 65, 70 yards plus.
Yeah, this is a tough game to turn the corner on based on what we watched on Toledo. When we were going into the preseason here, we had a 29% chance to win this game according to ESPN. That has dropped to 16.5. I'm not excited for it.
Thank you, Mr.
I
ESPN.
predicted a close game. It was supposed to be a close game, so I'm going to try to find a way to keep this a close game here. As I predicted, I did predict the L on this game preseason here, but look, on the bright side here, Ole Miss did play against Georgia State. We are going to be better than Georgia State, I'm assuming. I think we can put up more than 7. I think we'll hold Ole Miss to less than 63. I think our defense is more formidable. I think that we'll hold them to less than 295 yards running. I think we'll hold them to less than 400 yards passing. So I think that there's a opportunity for us to be more competitive. It is going to be an uphill battle to play against Ole Miss. Luckily, it looks like the roles are in our favor, that, less flopping on Lane Kiffin's side. So that was nice to see some of the new role changes in effect this year. But it's overall going to be a tough battle coming into this one. I'm finding hard. It's getting hard for me to find ways that, unless our offense can significantly step up and we can get some cohesiveness on the passing game, and then continue to run. If we continue to run the way we did against Toledo, put up 200 yards rushing, that'd be, I think that'd be our best bet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways in which we just score enough points to win this game.
Yeah, that's where it's tough. Unless the defense scores 2 touchdowns and you run a kickback, like, it's.
Yeah, I'm just, because Ole Miss spends a ton of money on the defensive side of the ball, because usually Lane Kiffin can scheme up any guys open. To Tyler's point earlier about it, scheme making a big difference. Usually
Yep.
Lane can scheme anything open on the offensive side of the ball. They put a lot of money into the defense. They lost a lot of talent on the defense. So I'm really hoping just being able to run the ball through the trenches. You just got to connect on some of those deep passing plays. We took a lot of shots last week. You just have to be able to connect on 1 or 2 of those. And hopefully, it's to guys like Kendrick Law who can, make guys miss and take it the extra distance. All that being said, I do think there is a path for Kentucky to win this game. I just can't predict it myself. I'm going to have Ole Miss winning. I'm going to have Ole Miss winning this game. And if we're all three, probably going to have Ole Miss winning. Probably a good chance that Kentucky fights and claws their way back. Tyler, I'm going to start with you on this one because you love to give out the score predictions. You gave them out 15 weeks ago ahead of this game. So what do you got for the final score prediction here?
Well, to begin the season here, I had as a close game here at 24-20 in favor of Ole Miss. I will have to widen this just a little bit based off the play from last week. I'm predicting that Ole Miss will put up 31. I think that we will put up 17.
Holy cow, that was actually about to be my exact score. So
You mean you have a realistic score for once? You're not going to have like a random 18, 19 points on the board?
I'm sorry, realistic? The guy that hit the Toledo score on the head and was within 3 points of predicting the game exactly.
I was a point off from predicting the Toledo score, and if
I was not dogging you at all there, boys. That was all him.
If they would have taken those field goals, like you mentioned earlier, 30-16, I'd have been a point off in both directions. So, pump the brakes a little here, pal. Let's see if you can get this one right. What's your score prediction for the Ole Miss game?
Well, real quick, as crazy as it is, I really don't see Kentucky scoring near enough points to hang in this game. And even I was going to say, even if the defense or special team finds a way to score 2 touchdowns, can Kentucky find a way to go score another 2 offensively? I'm I'm not sure because I think you're going to have to probably score in the high 20s, even with how good our defense is. Especially if they're on the field as much as they were last Saturday. I was going to actually have a very similar score to Tyler. Well, that was going to be my score. I'm going to switch it a little bit. I'll say Ole Miss 34, Kentucky 17. I think I don't get me wrong. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be, watching the game. I'm going to be funneling my beers and, going crazy. But
Warriors will be live at the end of the game.
I think I think Ole Miss is going to win and cover that 10.5, and I think it's going to be tough for Kentucky even to kind of stay in it. I think we're going to be down 2 possessions for pretty much the entire game.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the blueprint for this game, just turn on the film from last year's game, 20-17. I mean, that's a blueprint for Kentucky to win this game. I just don't know if they're going to have it. A lot of things had to go right. A 4th and 7 deep pass to bury in. You had to recover a fumble in your end zone to win that game. A lot of things went right for the Cats to be able to win that.
He had a really bad Jackson Dart game too. Like, he played probably as bad as he could have.
Yeah.
Hey, we are home this week. I don't know about our home field advantage right now because it was a little down last week, but we are home.
Yeah,
we might. Our players might have more energy playing in the Grove.
Yeah, we haven't won an SEC home game in 2 years, so I don't know if that helps us or not. My score prediction is going to be 24-14, Ole Miss. I don't think Kentucky has the firepower offensively to get it done. Really, what you need is the team to do exactly what they did last year. DJ Waller and JQ Hardaway, those are the best games of their career, was in Oxford last year. You need 1 or 2 of those deep shots like Barry and Brown had. You need one from Kendrick Law or Hardley Gilmore. JJ Hester, just somebody in that receiving core has to step up. Because if we're looking at any sort of a box score where you're looking at Josh Caddis being your leading receiver with 43 yards, there's just not a chance this team's going to be able to win the game, especially with the tempo that Lane Kiffin plays and the amount of plays that they're going to get off. It's not going to be a fun game to watch, but I'm telling you, Mark Stoops is going to have to pound the rock, bleed the clock. Usually when you're the worst team, you want to get less plays off, and I think that's something that they're going to have to do in this game. Force a couple turnovers from Austin Simmons. Hopefully, if he throws 2 to Georgia State, hopefully he can throw 2 to us. I think that's a recipe to win. I just don't know if they can capitalize because there's a lot of things that have to go right. And I just don't know if I can bet on 6 things going right for Kentucky to get this upset.
I mean, if you told me Kentucky started every single possession at the 50, no matter what, I still don't know if I think we can score enough points. I
don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm not that far off the ledge. But I hear you.
Don't get me wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but this, I have a feeling we're going to be looking at it kind of the same way we looked at that South Carolina game a year ago, where we're just never in it and just kind of getting killed from the jump. So I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping I'm sitting here sending you guys videos at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, whatever time, and we're all having a big party and having fun, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I really hope so. Guys, you got anything you want to get off your chest before this Ole Miss game, before we sign off of here? We've obviously all given our score predictions. I've been able to play the fence a little bit here. Preseason, I give the Cats to win. During the season, I give Ole Miss to win. So either way, I'm coming out of this 50%.
So you've already – you kind of have, so I guess I'll ask Tyler, did Saturday's game change your overall outlook on the season? Because, Cam, you had, 6 wins, and now you're with this being a win, and now you're predicting it a loss. Are you still at 6? You think they steal one somewhere else, or does this kind of change your overall outlook on the year?
It definitely changes it. I also just don't want to put too much into week 1 in college football because, like you mentioned, you watched a good amount of that Texas-Ohio State game. If you're going just based off of that, Arch Manning might be the worst quarterback in the SEC. So I
still like Texas to win the national championship, by the way.
Yeah. So I don't want to overreact to 50 new guys on this team. A lot of them on the offensive side of the ball. They got to gel week 1, so I don't want to put too much into it. But yes, It's honestly Toledo is more kind of what changed
I
my
agree.
opinion of this
100%.
team. Because this Toledo team, man, was not good at all. I thought that team was going to be a lot better. And the fact that they played that bad and we still only beat them by 8 points, I get there was a little bit of a garbage time touchdown at the end. But would you have felt any better if it was? I mean, I wouldn't have felt much better.
You hit the nail. You hit the nail right on the head because I agree with you. What, last week or 2 weeks ago when we were giving our predictions, I said I don't care if you win this game by 3 points. You just have to go win. But I agree with you completely. I expected a lot more out of Toledo. I thought, again, Toledo looked like a team that was going to finish 500 in the MAC again, and they, again, didn't even play well. I mean, I don't think there's a world where Kentucky was ever going to, quote unquote, lose this game because I don't think Toledo's that good, but like they looked bad, and you still were pathetic offensively and struggled. I mean, again, your one touchdown in the first three quarters, you started at what, the 29 or 30 something yard line?
Yeah.
And then you broke Dowdell just breaks a 70 something yard run. Like that's 14 of your 24 points right there. And so I agree with you completely, Cam. I was much more depressed about this game because I thought Toledo looked much worse than we all kind of were hearing they were going to be.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think that if Toledo's playing good football and we squeaked by an 8-point win, but Toledo played kind of like what we were talking about preseason here, where Toledo could have been our trap game in a way where they could have came out on top, just played a little bit better ball that day kind of thing. Our opinions might be different if we won that way, but the way that Toledo lost, like I said, I think they lost the game more so than we won the game. So that is worrisome. Now, kind of to Cam's point, I don't think it's changing my overall prediction here for the season. Not just yet. I do want to pump the brakes a little bit. I still have us losing next week. The way we lose next week, I think, it has changed a little bit. But, after this week, we're home against Eastern Michigan. And, I still have a score prediction right now of 42-10. I'm going to stick with it. I think that there's no way that we don't go into Kroger Field and we put up, 30, 35 points, 40 points, hopefully, and, beat the living daylight out of them. That should hopefully be the game where we can get some cohesion. We played against an SEC team. We've already played week one, so obviously we have that in the books. Now we start seeing pieces move together. This is where I'm really going to have more of an opinion on Coach Hamden. I know I've already kind of shared my piece now. I'm kind of frustrated with it because it's been the same story for the last 13 games, but this is where we start looking at the overall team, the players on the players on the chessboard, and we start making our predictions for the rest of the season. As of right now, I'm not gonna change too much on my overall prediction. I think we can pump the brakes just a little bit.
Yeah. And with all that being said, I still don't think this Ole Miss team is going to be that great either. I think this is probably one of the worst Ole Miss teams that they've had in quite some time under Lane Kiffin. I think this team might generally get Lane Kiffin on the hot seat down there in Oxford if it's not already just a tad warm. And they're putting a lot into Austin Simmons and what he can do this year. I mean, what do you guys have to feel comfortable with? Like, let's say going into this game, let's say the Cats don't win. What do you need to see from them, and like what score? What do they need to keep it between for you to feel like, okay, we didn't win that game, but I did come out feeling better about this team? Because, like you mentioned, Jacob, Toledo, you said as long as they won that game, you would have felt good. But that's changed after watching them play. What would you like to see this team do against Ole Miss, even if it's not necessarily a win, to get you feeling better than how you feel now?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily like a score kind of thing, right? Like you could play them close to one possession and, Lane scores late because he wants to win by double digits after last year. For me, like it sounds weird, but it's almost just like an eye test thing of the offense in general, the passing game. If they can go out there and, even move the ball and maybe not even necessarily score points, you have a couple red zone turnovers or a missed kick or something, but like I just got to see this offense be able to sustain drives, right? Like obviously I'll feel great and I'll be throwing my hands up and down if Calzada hits two deep shots and those are your only two offensive touchdowns and then you get a pick six or something crazy and you win 24-21, I'll be ecstatic, but that doesn't necessarily mean going forward like I feel any different about this offense just because they were able to hit a couple home run plays like we saw Saturday. So I just want to see you've got to find a way to consistently at least move the ball. And I'm not trying to be unrealistic and say, you got to go down and get into opponent's territory every single drive and, either have a chance for a field goal or a touchdown. But, I got to see some completions to the wide receivers. I got to see Calzado look better. So I think for me, it's more so just like an eye test kind of thing of this passing game.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the same page there with Boyers. If we're moving the ball and we're showing that we've significantly improved in the passing offense and our running offense stays the same, we're doing good with that. I think the overall chemistry of the offense, that is what I'm looking for. And then how does our defense play against an SEC football team? I'm not looking for perfection here. Obviously, I would love to get the win. If we don't get the win, but we're looking better and more cohesive as a unit, I will be more excited as we go down the road here, going into South Carolina, which I have us predicted to win. I know we played Georgia, Texas down the road, but I will feel better going into those games than I do right now. So I just want to see improvement. That's all I want to see. We played the first game with the new guys. Now we have one game under our belt. We're going into Ole Miss and Ole Miss is coming here, and we're playing an SEC team for the first time this year with this unit. Let's kick the tires on it and see what we can do and see where we can improve. Hopefully, we are watching the film.
I mean, weirdly enough, I think I'd feel better about this team if this defense comes out and holds them under 24 points, under 20 points. I think that's more what I'm looking for, because I think we know that even if this offense starts to click, it starts to get going a little bit more, we're not expecting this to be a high-powered offense at any point throughout the season, even if they do hit their high end of their potential. But this defense, I think this is a defense that really does scheme well against a Lane Kiffin offense. They're fast. We've got big guys up front. Linebackers can move. We've got lengthy corners. We saw that give them trouble last year. I think this defense, for me to feel better about this team, even if they don't win, I think this defense has to hold them. I mean, I want to say at the least, or at the most, 24 points and under. But it's also about, how long does this offense keep the ball? Can we keep their offense off the field with, us sustaining drives like Jake mentioned? And that is where I'm just not sure. So I want this game to be competitive throughout. I don't ever want it to be a 14-point game and you're looking at it like, oh man, offense is done. We got no shot unless it's a pick six, something like that. I won't say I'll be happy with it, but I want to see this defense show that they're one of at least the top half unit in the SEC, and that they're going to be a reason to keep us in some of these games, because I think that's what we need from this defense. Just keep us in games, and then hopefully big shot to Kendrick Law, big shot to somebody else, a big Dante Dowdell breakout run. I think that's what you're looking for in this offense. Like I said, I think the blueprint for this team to win some of those games that we need them to win to get to the 6-6 mark, or even past that, or even to 5-8, is what they did at Ole Miss last year. I think that is a blueprint from the win, the games that they shouldn't. And hopefully we see it Saturday. Jacob, if they do win, if they are able to pull off the upset, what are you willing to wager here? Anything? Got anything? Anything crazy you're willing to do? You're a crazy man.
He's going to burn his couch.
I do have my old couch sitting on the side of my house that I need to get rid of. So,
all right. You heard it here first from the Cast Talk podcast. Pull up to Jacob Boyer's house. We will light a fire to that couch if the Cats pull off another upset against Ole Miss.
Real quick, though, Cam, I do want to say, I'll obviously be celebrating the hell out of the game if they win. I don't care if they win 10-7, right? I'll be ecstatic. But I will say, to your point of, if it's a similar game to last year, I'll be celebrating it. I'll be happy. I don't know if it'll change my outlook on the entire season totally, other than I'll obviously think they're on track to make, a bowl. But I just think, I don't know. I kind of feel like that game last year was a little bit of, fool's gold. You got the worst offense Ole Miss, played all year. Again, I thought it was Jackson Dart's worst game. They missed a kick as time expired to send it to overtime. And then, Kentucky just hit a big play. I got to see something that's a little more sustainable. So even in a loss, I may have a better overall view of the entire season than if they find a way to kind of get what I think would be almost like another fluky win, or maybe they just have Kiffin's number. I don't know, but I think for the remaining 10 games after this, I got to see something from that offense.
To Cam's point here, I think I'm on a little bit swinging a little bit more his way with this, and just in the fact that if we can find our identity as an offense, as a team, that will tell us who we are throughout the rest of the season. So, Cam, to your point, I do feel like if we see a really good defense out there, they're playing top half SEC football, and our offense can put up 20, 24 points. That's probably right around what we can do, we have the capabilities of doing. I will, win or lose, I will feel better about this team going forward. I mean, you guys laughed at me beginning of the year when I said, "Oh yeah, if Zach can get about 150 yards and a touchdown a game, like that's all I'm asking for." And you guys, well, that's a little low. Yeah, it sounds about right now. So but if they're running the ball 200 yards a game without just an 80-yard run to boost the stats, I'm okay with that.
I think we laughed at you more, not the fact that you can't win a game like that against Toledo. It's more when you face Ole Miss, you're not winning a game throwing for 150 yards. It's not going to happen. Even Brock Vandagriff threw for more than 150 yards last year.
Sure, if they're putting up 400 yards passing and we're only putting up 150, sure, I can see your point. But if we can hold them down to 200 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, if we can do 200 yards rushing and 150 yards passing, I like our chances. No turnovers, of course.
You're just like spinning the wagon here. Let's also not compare Toledo and Georgia State. Those are not on the same level. Even though I was super disappointed with Toledo, Georgia State is bottom of FBS Division I. Like that is the low of the low. There's a reason why Lane Kiffin plays these teams at the start of every single season. It's a full tune-up game. Let the offense put up a lot of points. That way, at the end of the season, when it comes college football playoff time, they're like, oh, they have one of the best offenses. Well, a lot of that reason is because they just put up 63 against Georgia State, who honestly, Tyler, I don't know if Jacob was at quarterback and you and I were outside, we might be getting open. So, I mean, there's a good chance there. No. So if Toledo played Georgia State, that's probably a 15 to 20 point spread in Vegas. So let's not act like they're on the same wavelength either. But I do still expect Ole Miss to win that game. Guys, Jacob, look how you got something to say. Anything to say before we sign off of here?
Yeah, real quick, I'll just ask you, since we're, I know, kind of over time. What is there a world, or what would it take? What would the situation be where you decide in this game at any point, we're going to make the switch off of Zach?
There isn't.
There's not?
No. Not this game, no.
I mean, unless you're talking about something crazy.
5 interceptions.
Yeah, unless you're talking about something like he's got 3 picks at halftime, or unless it's something ridiculous like that, you just can't do it this early. I mean, at that point, you're putting the writing on the wall for the rest of the season. And I think he, even though made a ton of bad reads in the last game, I think he deserves more than a game and a game and a half against Ole Miss to prove that he can play at this level. And we've seen him play against good teams. It's in there somewhere. He's got the arm strength and the arm talent. There's just a misconnection right now with him and Bush and him in the receiving core. So I know I'm going to be in the minority on that, but I am not looking at Cutter. At the earliest I'll look at Cutter is after that Eastern Michigan game if Zach can't get it right against another bad team and a bad defense.
So let's just,
like he did against Toledo against Eastern Michigan. I'm on board with that too.
Let's just say it's, I don't know, let's say your defense is playing their ass off, but maybe Cutter's not even turning the ball over, but you just cannot move the ball. And let's say with, halfway through the third quarter, it's 14 to 3. You're not even thinking about it. And you got 50 yards of total passing, but your defense is playing their ass off and keeping you in the game. There's not a part of you that would say we need to see what we can do to go try to win this game.
I'm personally not. I also don't think right now the difference is that big. I don't think it's I like Cutter and I like the upside that he brings. But I mean, Zach's problem is not the arm strength, and that's what most people look at when they look at Cutter. Cutter's is not necessarily anticipation and being able to read the field. His is just arm strength. That's why his very first pass was a pick 6 against Florida, because he decided he was going to outmuscle it out there. And that's exactly what Calzada is. He's just a 7th-year guy. They're very similar in their playing profiles. And for that reason, I mean, I'm not making the switch unless it's a turnover reason, or if it's, obviously Zach's limited by an injury or some sort during that game. That's the only way I'm looking to make the move to Cutter. I love Cutter's future with this team. I don't need to be hearing the Cutters in the chat already. I feel like it's way too early.
I don't think it's fair to Zach, if I'm being honest with you. Just Cam, to your point, I think it's really early, but how are you supposed to give this quarterback a shot? Either one. I mean, you're taking out Zach this early in the season. I mean, your first real test here with all these new pieces, you're taking Zach out. Cutter's sitting there in the pocket too. Now he's sitting there like, shoot, when am I getting pulled? Like, it's going to be back and forth.
I mean, I'm not saying this is the case, but I mean, when you hear all offseason that one quarterback looked better than the other in training camp, but, we're paying a boatload of money to one guy, and that's kind of giving him the nod. I think if we have another game similar to Saturday, I don't think it's ridiculous for fans to say they want to see the guy that every, assistant secretly whispered looked better throughout the entire fall camp. I don't think that's, a crazy take.
Yeah, I don't think it's ridiculous, but I think you also know being from Kentucky is a lot of the reason why Cutter Bowling is getting
agreed. And like for the fan perspective, I agree with that. But when you're hearing, assistants on the staff, whisper to reporters, one QB looks significantly better than the other. Like that's, they don't care where that guy's from. They're talking just
honestly, if we get there, I don't think Bush is going to leave Zach in. I mean, this is Bush's last year if he doesn't get it figured out. He's obviously can't at the end of the year. So I think Bush is going to put in whoever he thinks gives him the best chance to win at any time. I don't think he's worried about we paid Zach, whatever.
That might not be a Bush decision. Like, let's be clear.
But also, listen to how much Stoops talks up Cutter all the time as well.
I'm just saying, like,
I know you're playing devil's advocate. I don't think there's a way in which
there is a point. There is a part.
He said you can give up on the quarterback who you've been talking up all off season.
I do think there is a point. There is a part of it as Mark Stoops paid. Whether he's the one that technically made the decision, I'm sure he has some type of final decision making. But we paid this much to this guy. Like, I need to try to make it work before I don't.
I generally just don't think we're there unless, like I said, he's got until the Eastern Michigan game. If we get to halftime of the Eastern Michigan game and he's putting up a stat line like he did at halftime at Toledo and he didn't have a good Ole Miss game, then let's have that conversation. I think after game one, granted, Toledo game looked awful. But like we've mentioned, are the receivers getting open? Is it the play calling? Is it the scheme? There's a lot of things that are a factor to this. I think making a move this early just signals our hands are up and we're just hoping to go 3-9, 4-8. So I think we got to ride with them at the minimum until the Eastern Michigan game's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I wouldn't say it like I didn't say it last year with Brock because in part I didn't think the second option was as good as the starter. And again, I'm not acting like Cutter's going to go out there and be, the next Tim Tebow or, Peyton Manning or whoever else. But I just think, when you hear all offseason, Cutter is outperforming Zach and then you see Zach continue to struggle, there's going to be a portion of the fan base, and I agree, rightfully so, that says, hey, why aren't we playing the guy that looked better in fall camp that we all heard outperform this guy in fall camp? And we're still trying to force this guy out there. So that's all. Again, I don't think you have him on like a super short leash or anything. And if he goes out there and throws a pick the first drive, I'm going to be looking around for Cutter to come in. But I do think, again, if we're midway through the third quarter at 55 passing yards and 3 points, there's going to be part of me that's going to be ready to be yelling for that change to happen.
Just like thinking about it from a psychology point of view, what do you have to say to Cutter that you want to say good things about him all off season because this is a guy who there was rumors that he might hit the transfer portal last year if they brought in a guy who was going to come in and be that, that known starter. In this age, in this era of college football, you have to talk guys up unless you want the chance of them to enter the transfer portal. And with how much we all love Cutter's upside, I'd be talking him up too as much as I could. Keep him locked, keep him engaged. That way, let's just say, how many years in a row have we had to where our starting quarterback doesn't play all 12 games? It's been since Andre Woodson maybe in 06? It's been the last time we've had a starting quarterback play all 12 games. keep the young guy locked in and engaged by building up his confidence throughout the offseason. That way, when the time does come, he's ready. I think it's more of that rather than just they believe that he's that much better than Zach.
And I mean, I agree. Like when it comes to Stoops talking about it in a press conference, but I mean, there is some stuff if you're reading online of assistant coaches saying it pretty much anonymously off the record because they don't want to put their name that they're giving the lean, but like you're hearing people say like Cutter was the better of the two. So again, hopefully Zach goes out there and throws for 250 and we find a way to win the game and none of this matters. But
yeah, let's hope so. And like I say that could very much be Cutter could have looked better all offseason. I know when I went down to the fan day, neither one of them looked good. So, I mean, there's also that potential that neither one are good, and we got to wait for Matt Pontonski to come out of Moeller for next season. And there's a good chance that happens as well. Either way, guys, we're going to keep you updated. Jake's already calling for Calzada's head.
Easy.
He's already got him on there. Tyler's already calling for Bush's head. I mean, we've already got 2 guys asking to get benched and fired, and we're only a game into the season. So this is why you tune into the Cats Talk podcast, is hopefully you get some reasoning and some rationale behind some of these. I don't know if we got them from Jacob and Tyler in this episode, but guess what, guys? Unfortunately,
number one ball knower on the podcast predicting 16 points, getting laughed at.
All I know is we all predicted an Ole Miss loss. Hopefully, we're all coming back next week talking about how much idiots we are. Hopefully, Bush looks great. Hopefully, Calzada looks great. Hopefully, the receivers look great because we've all had different opinions on all 3 of those subjects. But we'll give you a halftime update, post-game topics as well. Cam Johnson of the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, not on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts.
Found that out.
Somebody told me at the game. So we will try to get on there as well. But we're on every other way you get your podcast. With that being said, go Big Blue. Hopefully we get an upset this weekend.
Go Big Blue.